Old friends, new friends, everyone in between. What is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to episode 1056, Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you to everybody out there, as always, for watching the show, for listening, however you consume Talking Buffalo. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Also, a big, big shout out to our sponsor, Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbey Road, just on the way from Highmark Stadium. Got a peek of it today, folks. A brand new outside patio bar is coming there. It's going to be ready to go in within the next 2 weeks. I'm telling you, that shit is dope. It looks really good. Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbey Road. All right, folks, usually, especially, pretty much year round, it's all Bills, 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 Bills. Occasionally, I need to take a detour. I need to get away from some Bills talk. And that's what we're going to do today. Going to talk Sabres. And to do it, first time ever on this show, man. Long time, 7 years, over 1,000 episodes. I haven't had him on the show until now. I'm pumped about this one. I'm Duane Steinel, co-host, 2 goalies, 1 mic. First time on here, man. How you doing, buddy? What's going on? Thank you for coming on as well. Appreciate you.
No, man, thanks. I'm just living the dream over here in the city of Tonawanda. No, I'm excited, man. We've been kind of going back and forth, shooting the shit a little bit about
Sure.
Coming on here, or either me on yours or yours on mine, you on mine. Super stoked.
I appreciate having you. So you said Tonawanda. This is our first, by the way, for everybody who's listening to this show, I kind of like this because I've been doing this for a long time now. And when it comes to whether it's sports media people, news media people, content creators, by this point, I feel like I've had a conversation with almost everybody. So when I get somebody like you on, and we know each other, and we've had, like I said, some interactions on social media. We talked in DMs a little bit, but we've never actually had a verbal, actual conversation before. So I'm kind of interested in getting to know you a little bit. You said Tonawanda, huh? Is that where you were born and raised here in Buffalo? Western New
So
York?
it's funny. I'm sorry. It was funny. I was born in this house, and then my dad bought a house in Cheektowaga. He kept this house
Oh,
and
okay.
then moved to Cheektowaga, on Borden Road out there, and kind of like the borderline of Cheektowaga and Depew. And then when I turned 20, let's say I was 24, I moved out here. Actually, no, I was 24, 25 years old. I moved out here. So
Okay, cool, man.
been out
Cool.
here ever since. So
My guy, some people out there in Tonawanda. My man, Aaron Quinn from Cover One. He's a North Tonawanda guy. Is it North Tonawanda and Tonawanda are like rivalries though? Like it's kind of supposed to talk nice about them.
I mean, I got no problems with NT people. Like, I got friends that are NT people. It's weird because growing up in like Cheektowaga, and I went to Depew High School. Like, people like friends that I have that are down in the South towns, they treat me like I'm in Canada. It's weird. Like it's like my friends, like my longtime friends who I've known since freshman year. I think like they've been out to my house probably like I can count it on one hand in the last 5 years. It's too far, man. It's too far to drive. I'm like, it's 22 minutes. Okay.
So we're gonna spend some time today, obviously talking Buffalo Sabres. I got a couple takes. I got some questions for you here. Offseason coming up. I feel like a big splash should be imminent. Is it going to be imminent? I'm going to ask you about that. Some possibilities. Obviously, Mitch Marner is going to be a big name that's floated around in the hours, days, maybe weeks to come, leading into free agency if he doesn't resign with Toronto, of course. Before that, we'll get to all that in just a minute. And by the way, for everybody listening, tomorrow, Matt Warren from SB Nation will join me for our weekly chat. We're going to be talking Buffalo Bills and going over a list that Joe Marino did on his show that I was part of a couple of days ago, counting down the 10 most critical players to the Buffalo Bills' future. It'll be fun tomorrow with Matt. Sabres stuff, hockey stuff today. But before we even get into that, a lot of people out there may know Duane going back now to what is it, like 20, I think it was 2020, the famous, very famous at the time. And I remember it's because I was living in Florida actually at the time when this happened. You called WGR and you had, I think it's safe to say, a legendary rant, ripping the organization, not just for stuff that was going on the ice, because we're all frustrated with what's been going on on the ice for years, but you
Mhm.
got into a lot of off ice stuff too, organizationally, that I really think fans felt and they related to. And I also remember, because I didn't know you before that, but after the rant, I certainly knew who you were. And I remember the hashtag that got real popular. We are all Duane. That kind of took on a life of its own. Before we get into some current Sabre stuff, let's kind of revisit that here for just a minute. I want you
Okay.
to kind of take me back to 2020 and what led to you feeling the need or the desire to call WGR and just again old school kind of like radio style rant, man. And it really
Mhm.
resonated with a lot of people. Like, what was the tipping point? What got you over the edge that you felt the need to call and really express your voice in that way?
So it's funny. We don't really have to go back 5 years because I mean I don't really feel much different now than I did then. Like it's funny. Like I mean, you know how it is on the internet, man. You deal with like there are times I wish I never even made that phone call because it's like you deal with trolls and your 15
Sure.
minutes are up and just like
Mhm.
you're talking about like like it's funny. I the way I speak about this team, it's never changed. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, like when this all started, like it's never changed. It's always been like this. Now, after what happened 5 years ago, it's just the group I was talking to was this big and now it's like this big, right?
Mhm.
So now it's heard by more people, which is awesome most of the time. But anyways, like it's just funny. You could play that phone call on the radio today, and people will think
Yeah.
that was live today because it's all still relevant. It's all literally still relevant, and um, I whether it was back then was Kevin Adams wasn't the GM when the phone call was made. He was made some business. He was working in some business position on the
Yeah.
business side of things for Buffalo, and then he was promoted, having zero experience, which is very on par for the Buffalo Sabres. But you fast forward to today, it's just no different, man. It's just you have a bunch of people that are inexperienced doing things that they should, working in positions that they shouldn't be working in. They still have one of the smallest scouting staffs in the league. I'm fairly positive they don't have a Russian scout. Like, it's just like in terms of how a professional sports franchise should be run. Um, they got to be near the bottom. Like, I mean, if you're ranking every single major sport and every single team, they are easily near the bottom, like right down there with. I mean, I'd say they're well below the Jets because at least the Jets hire people with experience.
Yeah,
Um,
they're not they're close. They're
yeah,
close.
but
They're certainly close. It's a I was gonna say fun. It's not fun. It's an
no,
interesting debate when you go to the New York Jets, Buffalo Sabres, most sorriest organization in pro sports right now. But and you're right. You're talking about the front office, the structure, the scouting, the coach, all of this stuff. But even and I remember going back to you being pissed off and calling WGR. It was also something kind of like me a little bit because I don't remember all the details, but I know it had something to do with a jersey too.
oh yeah,
The about and also the spelling, like spelling names wrong on a jersey, stuff like that. Like simple little organizational things that just kind of contribute to making the Buffalo Sabres, quite frankly, right now a laughing stock.
yeah. Like, and I'll give credit. I'll give a quick shout here to my buddy Greg Day. He was always getting in my ear on the Sabres before I made the phone
Mhm.
call because I was a very adamant defender of Terry Pagula. Like I was brainwashed into thinking, oh, the Sabres wouldn't be here without him. And like, no, like the Sabres weren't in danger of moving anywhere. Tom Golisano had no, you know what I mean? Like it was just like you were just so like Terry was the new toy, right? And he loves the Sabres. He's a fan just like me. And like you're just so enamored by that, right?
I
Like
was
you're
at
like,
the press conference, Dwayne.
yeah,
When I was at that introductory press conference, I was covering it. I don't remember for what
right.
outlet, but I was covering it. Yeah, it was an aura of excitement and change is
Yeah.
really coming with him. But yeah, you're right.
I'll drill another well if I want to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're just so enamored by that. And then that season, the way it was going, the 50th anniversary, obviously it's just been a nightmare and like nothing was going right. They did the 80s night right where they dressed up the arena like the old odd the shirts with the same color of the old odd seats, the golds,
Yeah.
blues, and so on and so on. That was cool. Okay, they got that right. So, but like the biggest thing we all wanted was Goathead night, 90s night. Like for me, that's when I fell in love with the Buffalo Sabres.
Mhm.
Like as I said in the call, I first got into hockey and the Sabres through hockey cards. My first card was Brad May. Then I got Pat LaFontaine. I'm like, my cousin was really into it. I looked up to my cousin, so I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna really embrace this. And then that translated into watching Sabres games and going to games with my dad and just, and then a lot of the friendships I have even to this day throughout high school, and high school was a tough time for me. I won't get too deep into that, but like, Sabres hockey was a huge part of me maintaining and making friends.
Sure.
And then even going beyond that, just playing hockey, and making friends via that, playing hockey. So like it meant a lot to me 90s night because like that was when I fell in love with this team. My all-time favorite team, you might even agree, might have been the 96, 97 Sabres under Ted Nolan, hardest working team in hockey.
Oh, yeah.
Come to the game wearing hard hats. Like you had a very underwhelming offense, average defense, but the best goalie on the planet out there just giving you a chance to win every night.
Nobody wanted to come to Buffalo and play the Sabres.
Nobody
wanted to play the Sabres. It was not an easy night. It was not a night off when you played the Sabres during that era. I know exactly what you're talking about there.
You were looking over your shoulder every time you went to go dig a puck out of the corner. Like every single, it doesn't matter what line was out there. You just were. And even go further, like that team worked so hard that even when they lost, you went away happy, even because they lost. But like they worked their asses off. They understood. A lot of those teams back then understood what this meant to us. Like we're spending our money coming out. And they respected that and they didn't take it for granted. And then like you kind of think back to those teams and then just how they screwed up 90s night. Like there was a deadline. They had to meet with Adidas to do any type of like ceremonial jerseys. They didn't meet the deadline. The Vancouver Canucks, who came into the league the same year we did, they did it all right. They had all the jerseys. They didn't wear them just for the pregame ceremony. They wore them during the game. And it's just like, how do you are a professional sports franchise. That is such a little thing. And to march your alumni out in knockoff jerseys, which I heard were made, and don't quote me, but I heard they were made by AdPro Sports, a company that Pagula owned, because they realized they screwed up and they kind of like a last second thing. Let's just make the jerseys ourselves. Lexi Zhitnik came in, if you could find that picture, it was a crooked goat head. The goat head was crooked on his chest. It was like, and so I'm like, and I was at the game, so I was like, okay, cool. So they're not going to play in it because I was like lower 300s when I at that game. And I'm like, okay, so at least the alumni that are here are wearing it. And then you get on Twitter and you're like looking like, those aren't the jerseys. Like, what are these? What are these? And then just the misspelling names on jerseys like Andrew Truck and Robitaille, and it was just like more things to add to the pile. You know what I mean? Like, had they done that night right, but still misspelled the names, wouldn't have cared as much. But that was our night. Like my generation, that was our night to just sit back, listen to some good, song number 2, old school goal song, listen to get the old goal horn, just to really relive those days. And they screwed that up. All they had to do was meet a deadline, and they just didn't. And it's just like, I started to sit there and really think, I'm like, I have given so much to this team emotionally, financially, just time away. You know what I mean? Just the amount of hours spent in that arena up until that point. And I'm like, you start to really notice everything. Like, these are the same damn seats they had when they came into the ring at 96. Like, I tell this story a lot, and it's true. After my dad decided to get rid of seasons because he really couldn't justify it anymore, I split seasons with my cousin, and we were like center ice 300 level. One day, me and a different cousin were at the game, and we got like nachos with double cheese, and the container was really flimsy, and it broke, and the cheese spilled all over the seat in front of us. I am not kidding you. This was I'll say 7 to 10 years ago. That cheese is still caked on that seat. Still caked to this day. It's disgusting. I go there every once in a while to see if it's still there, and I'm like, how is this a pro sport? Like how? Like what? Like Holiday Twin. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but like you just start noticing more and more and more and more when something like when that '90s night when they botched that, and then I'm sitting in the parking lot at my gym, kind of waiting to go in, and I'm hold. And I had something completely different I was going to say. I wasn't even going to go off. I was going to talk about that game in particular that I went to. And I just started kind of scrolling through Twitter and just continuously seeing people post the pictures of the jerseys, the misspelled names.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I allowed to swear?
Of course you are.
Okay.
Yes.
I just literally... I started that phone conversation. I said, give me a minute to really organize my thoughts because I knew what I was going to say. I was a frequent caller, and I'm like, fuck it. I'm just done. I am done with this, protecting this owner. I literally, in a moment of clarity, I'm done protecting this owner and just done. And I just lost it for like 4 minutes. I can't believe they didn't cut me off.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they didn't because a lot of people got to know you because of that. And kind of, in terms of your story and now that you are, you're in the content creator space here in Buffalo. One of the things that I've enjoyed and liked about you is I think there's room for different types of voices, whether it's football, whether it's hockey, kind of the same deal. You got your straight news people who are going to cover this team with zero emotion, and it's all just news and complete and utter objectivity. And there's certainly a market for that. Then there's other people who have a lot of, statistics and analytics and a lot of analysis and stuff like that. There's a market for that too. You kind of represent, I feel like, not kind of, you literally, just going by that story right there, you represent a fan. You know what I mean? You cover this team, you talk about this team on the podcast, which I'm going to ask you about here in a second, but you cover it from the point of view of a fan. Right now, and for quite some time, for very obvious and good reasons, it's a disgruntled fan, as it should be. I mean, this is a team that has now made the playoffs now in 14 years and has barely even flirted, barely a handful of years throughout that process of even getting into the playoffs. I kind of want to ask you a little bit about, like, the podcast. Like, spend a few minutes talking about Two Mics, One Goalie, the podcast, how that came about, and kind of related, because I could tell between the name of it, your Twitter handle, it's got 39 at the end. Clearly, that's a nod. I'm assuming a Dominic Hasek here. Are you a goalie guy? Talk about the podcast. Like, what made you kind of want to start it? And what are some of the things that you really like about doing a podcast now, and maybe a thing or two that's not as much fun, besides them being a shit organization and just losing all the time. It's never fun to cover a team that loses all the time, but...
No, I mean, definitely not. So the podcast actually started 2 years before that phone call ever happened. Johnny Cullen, my original co-host, he's still kind of part of the show, but he just has a lot going on. So now I have Connor Hurley. We met at a mutual friend's bachelor party, and we were just talking hockey. I knew he was a goalie. He used to play in the OHL. He played for Windsor, played for Sarnia, and I believe Niagara. And then torn up knee, just had to retire. So we're talking about like just wanting to just continue on like our hockey, my career. I played junior college. I was mediocre at best, but we decided to come up with like a podcast, and I came up with the name Two Goalies, One Mic. Just because we're two goalies and we were using like one mic at Fredonia at the time. We went to the Fredonia University radio station, record a couple episodes. And I'm like, that's a good name. Let's go with that. And then he had to put on hold because he had a kid. So obviously other things come first, and we just kind of like just wanted this pause. We didn't talk for a while. And then the phone call happened, and I was on, like, it was crazy, man. My phone just never stopped going off for like 3 or 4 straight days. Like I had to turn all my notifications off on Twitter. It was crazy because it was just like I would go on, like, how when multiple people follow you, it would say so and so and 90 normal people are following you, and I'm like, I never experienced anything like that. Like, at most I had a couple hundred followers. That was really it. But it was I went from like a couple hundred to like 5,000, if maybe a little less than that, like in a matter of a few days. It was just crazy. And so I was on the Steve Dangle podcast. Steve's a friend, and he, middle of the show, he stops me and he goes, dude, like, you need to have a podcast of your own. Like, you can talk for hours and hours and hours about this. You should have a podcast. He was kind of joking, but he kind of wasn't. And then he kind of reaffirmed it again to me. And so I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should. Maybe I should bring out Two Goalies on mic. And I'm not even kidding you. I go in my pocket, pick up my phone, and I already had a message from Johnny. Like, it's just like, dude, we really need to really ride this wave and just bring back Two Goalies on mic. I think we could do something with it. Yeah. We made mistakes along the way. I did, definitely. Like, probably, could be a little bit. I don't want to say the word successful, but like maybe a little more monetized. But we were just really rookies, the both of us, in this whole thing. I was a communications major at Buff State, but I got a job out of college, and I didn't really do anything with my degree at that time. But I was familiar with this world, for a lack of a better way of saying it, and that's kind of how it was born. And we started off just, here in my living room with one microphone again, just me and him sitting around a microphone, just, I think doing it through Zoom and just uploading the audio through SoundCloud. And then we finally got our stuff on like Apple Podcasts and all that. And, it's really kind of, I guess, history since then. Like I said, Johnny, he's a very, very loosely part-time co-host now, but he's doing his own thing. But it's been fun, man. It really has been. It's cool to build a community through this. Sure. And I tell the people like that watch, because you bring up the comments, and I tell them all the time, like, you have no idea how grateful I am for all of you, and I truly mean it, because it's like, if I didn't have this like group of people, I would have lost my mind watching this team. I would never stop, because it's like Sabres hockey is just in my DNA. Like, I would never stop watching the team. I would never burn a jersey like that Leafs fan did last night. But like, to have those people to vent to, and just, it's meant the world. It really has.
That's cool, man. It's cool. And I've been enjoying it, like I said, and I like the perspective of a fan. I think there's definitely a place for it, and a lot of people follow along. And whether not even just a podcast, but also just Twitter and social media. And speaking of, I have a take. I tweeted it out on Tuesday. Monday. I'm sorry. We're recording this around dinner time-ish on Monday. This was an unpopular one. I knew it was going to be unpopular. I'm going to assume that you think it's unpopular as well, but I'm going to read it. Let people who are listening to the show decide for themselves. What I've noticed, and I understand, and listen, this does come from a place of understanding. Toronto lost again. They got eliminated again. Yep. They've won like 2 playoff series in the last gazillion years. I get it. As bad as the Sabres have been, I know they've won double the amount of playoff series in the last whatever years. I completely get that. I do. But when you're an organization or you're a fan base that just relishes and lives vicariously through other teams that are knocking out your rival, for me personally, it gets to be a little bit too much. I want to pull it up here on the screen, and I'll read it to you. It says, this is me. I'll get dragged, but I'm saying it anyway. I think it's a weird look for Sabre fans to be so loudly laughing at the Leafs like they do. It's like the kid being the Sabres, that gets smacked around, making fun of other kids who are getting smacked around. Other teams are fighting your battles for you. Now maybe I didn't articulate that quite the way I did. This would be the football equivalent. The Buffalo Bills have been a really good team for 7-8 years now, okay? And they win the division every year. They get to the playoffs, and the New York Jets, because we kind of compare the Sabres and the Jets suck ass, They haven't made the playoffs in forever, 14 years, just like the Sabres. They ain't making the playoffs anytime soon. They're probably the worst organization in the entire NFL. They are the worst organization in the NFL. And every year, without fail, when the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately beat the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, 2022 it was Cincinnati, Jets fans fucking come out of the woodwork talking all kinds of shit. LOL, Sabre or Bills again, this and that. And Bills Mafia is, and understandably so, like, well, you didn't do it. You guys suck. Who the hell are you to talk shit? You know, the Chiefs are fighting your battles for you. I kind of feel that way with the Sabres. It's like, well, Florida eliminated Toronto, or whether it's Carolina or the Rangers or whoever the hell it may be. It's like every year Toronto loses. I know they're your rival and you don't like them. You get a kick out of it, but I don't know, the loud celebrating and laughing at a team when you're the one who can't even get in the playoffs and you're getting smacked around every year. For me, I just feel like it's a weird look. I'm sure you disagree with that. The majority of people also disagree with that, to be fair, although I actually thought everyone would, and I got a little bit of support on that. You get where I'm coming from. Now, you might not necessarily agree, but at least where I'm coming from. Like, don't talk shit about somebody when you're not better than them. That's what I'm saying.
So are you a baseball fan?
I am, yeah. Well, yeah, I am.
Are you? Who's your team?
It's been the Yankees.
So would you agree if you're a Yankees fan, fuck the Red Sox always and forever, and if you're a Red Sox fan, fuck the Yankees always and forever?
Yeah.
That's what it is for me in the Leafs, man. I grew up in that era. You know, that night, like I said, I started following the team around like 95, 96. You know, Matt Sundin, Ty Domi, Thomas Cabriolet, just Darcy Tucker. You know, the battles between Hasek and Cujo and like Potvin before that. That rival, the QEW rivalry was I was brought into hockey. That was the rivalry. So for me, it's fuck the Leafs always and forever. I don't care how bad my team is. Never will I. You never. And here's the thing. And going back to what we talked about before with the podcast, I've actually grown a small channel of friends of Leafs fans through all of this. I respect Leafs fans a lot because as good as their team has been, to lose the way they do and to still keep coming back the way we do, I have to respect it. You have to. Like you have the players they've had with Austin Matthews and, now, you're probably no longer Mitch Marner and probably Tavares too. Just like to have the teams they've had, the payroll they've had, always spending the cap and just always finding and I used to say this about the Red Sox. The Red Sox made losing an art form up until they finally figured it out in 2004. They just didn't lose. They went down a blaze of glory. Same thing you could say with the Leafs. They don't just lose. They find a way to make it poetic and then rip your heart out at the end.
Yeah, they lose.
And they've done it over and over again. So for me, I have a lot of friends that are Leafs fans, and I down deep inside, I'm like, if and when they do win, I'll be happy for my friends, no doubt about it. But until that happens, fuck the Leafs.
I'll say this as we go into a break. It's a good analogy with the Yankees and Red Sox, especially on the fly, because, again, we haven't talked before this. But my rebuttal would be this. Well, the Leafs and the Sabres, neither of them have won shit either. But with the Yankees and the Red Sox, they've both won shit, and they're both, most of the time anyway, are competitive. They compete for titles year after year. They're peers. I don't feel like the Sabres and the Leafs are peers because the Sabres don't even get to the playoffs. But you could come back at me and well, guess what? You get bounced every year. And most of the time it's been in the first round. They've only won 2 playoff series in forever now. So I get it. I don't know. It's still, you're right. I get it. If you hate a team, you live for that team to fail. Yeah. I get it, man. I really do. I'm a Notre Dame fan, and I grew up hating Miami, the U. And that was a big college rivalry, or how Michigan and Ohio State. It only as long as they win one game, if it's against that team, the rest of the season doesn't mean anything. Long as the other team doesn't win, that makes you just as happy. I don't know though, man. To me, it's you got to do something before you can talk some smack. That's what.
Here's the thing, though. We have if you really think about it, over the last 20 years, Buffalo has been the more successful team in terms of not making the playoffs, but getting further in the playoffs. It's a fact. I've been tweeting that since 2020. I don't care. They can get to the playoffs all they want, but they couldn't get past the first round. Buffalo always had more playoff round wins than the Leafs. They just had, starting from even honestly, I think it's 7 series wins to 5 or 6. If you want to go back to the night when Buffalo beat Toronto in 98, 99 in the conference finals. I think that's where the Leafs hold an edge. But and you did get the numbers too. I'd be willing to bet if you take the 05-06 and 06-07 Sabres and how far they went, you count their goals for. I don't know this for sure. I just have a hunch. I'm willing to bet that those two playoff runs have more goals for than the entire Austin Matthews era in the playoffs.
You might be right.
Like those were high scoring Sabres teams.
Yeah.
Those were high scoring teams. So I'm willing. I might even look into that. Like I'm willing to bet they've probably scored more goals in those 2 years than in the 9 years they've had with like Marner and Matthews in the playoffs.
Very interesting. Let's take a real quick break. Come back on the other side. You just mentioned Mitch Marner. I actually want to talk about him and as it relates to the Buffalo Sabres because it might only last for a little bit, but it certainly sounds like a fun topic that's certainly going to take up some time during the beginning of this offseason now for Toronto. So we'll be right back, folks. All right, we are back here. A Tuesday episode. Duane Steinel, 2 goalies, 1 mic. Sabres. All right, before we talk about Mitch Marner, right, that's the guy I want to talk about today, man. That's a primary focus of this show, or just what the Sabres are going to do. It is a big move imminent at this point. But before that, let me ask you this. How surprised are you right now, Duane, by what's going on with the Sabres front office? Mainly Kevin Adams staying. I mean, that itself, of course, is a big story in itself. But there was a lot of buzz going on for a while that he was not going to get fired, but he was going to get kicked upstairs and they would have a new hockey GM. That didn't materialize. And they were talking about senior advisors and stuff like that. Nothing has really happened. So how surprised are you right now that Kevin Adams is staying? And apparently there seems to be a significant lack of interest from outside people wanting to come in and join this front office. And of course, I'm not talking about Eric Stahl, the new assistant to the regional general manager, whatever the hell he is with that. But are you surprised right now that it's kind of, we still got an off season in terms of potential player movement, and we'll see how it goes. But right now it kind of feels like it's going to be more of the same with the structure, primarily anyway, of this front office.
I don't know, man. Like special assistant to the GM, Eric Stahl. Like, what does he do? What does that mean? Like, what are you taking notes for him? Like, are you getting his coffee? Like, what exactly? I understand it's almost an advisement role, his opinions on players and certain players that are already in the system. Like, I understand, but like, I don't know. Isn't that why you have an assistant GM too? Like, you have Carmanos, Carmanos, who's, one of the best in his position, who doesn't even live in the city of Buffalo, which I think is a joke. I think if you have a guy doing what he does, he should live in Buffalo, but he doesn't. And then this senior advisor position, usually when, it was leaked by, I want to say it was Elliot Friedman or the day after the whistle guys. Usually something is leaked, right? Like usually you hear a name. Oh, so-and-so had this guy in for an interview. We haven't heard a thing. Not a thing. Nothing has fallen through the cracks. Nobody's leaked anything. Does that mean nobody's been interviewed? Have they even attempted to reach out to people they interviewed? We heard that Ken Holland and Lou Lamoriello apparently showed no interest, and then you see Lou Lamoriello in the airport, but apparently that's only to get his Nexus renewed. But that's the thing with me, and that doesn't make sense to me because you can get those things renewed. It's not initially get them. You can get them renewed online unless some of your information has dramatically changed. But wouldn't you try and, if you're Lou Lamoriello even, let me hear what the Leafs have to say. Let me hear what they got to say. I'm here. You know what I mean? But Sabres could have showed up to the airport to have that meeting. I don't know. Nothing is leaked, and it drives me nuts. Like, it's like being in this holding pattern. You don't know whether you can feel optimistic or just feel, oh, here we go again. Like, I feel like the whole fan base is in this holding pattern, trying while this front office tries to figure itself out. And the fact that Kevin Adams is going to go into his 6 years as GM is actually almost depressingly impressive. Because name any sports franchise who misses the playoff 5 years in a row and keeps their GM. for a 6. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't. It
especially
does not
today's
happen,
age.
especially in hockey. It just doesn't happen. But here it does. Like, I'm willing to bet that. I shouldn't say willing to bet. I would not be surprised if in the next few days we find out Brendan Shanahan's unemployed. That's Brendan Shanahan, president of hockey ops. He did turn that entire organization around in Toronto. They were a mess when he took over, and credit to him, he turned them around. I think he'd be a perfect guy to come in and help fix the Sabres. People will be against it, but with the current state the Sabres are in right now, we are not as bad as what Toronto was back when they had Dion Phaneuf and Phil Kessel and all the drama with them. And then he came in and he really did right that ship. He did. I would take a guy like him in a heartbeat. So, man, I would throw a boatload of money at that guy if he becomes available, because we're, in my opinion, again, in a better position than what the Toronto Maple Leafs were when he took over. And look where they are now. Granted, yeah, they can't get past the second round, but at least they're there. They're getting there.
Yeah, I think right now any addition to the front office would be something at this point would be welcomed. And
Yeah.
when it comes to Mitch Marner, all right, now, man, I feel like this is fantasy land personally, but let me ask you this. All right, so Mitch Marner, 102 points this year, okay? He's had at least 85 points in his last 4 years. He's had 25 goals 5 times in his career. He ain't old. He just turned 28 literally a couple weeks ago. Of course, the connection that people love to talk about, and it's not wrong. It is accurate. He is a big Buffalo Bills fan, and he is a
Massive Bills fan.
big Josh Allen fan. And that shouldn't be understated, because I'm not saying it matters, but it's definitely something, okay? Let me ask you this. Whether it's Toronto, whether it's Utah, Pittsburgh, Carolina, the Buffalo Sabres, a contract for a guy who's put up the numbers that Mitch Marner has, his age, but he also has not played his best in the playoffs like pretty much every single Toronto Maple Leaf. You could go down the line and you could say that. What kind of contract do you think Mitch Marner is going to get over the next couple weeks or couple months? And do the Sabres even have a prayer in your objectively speaking opinion right now?
I'll start off with what his contract could look like.
Hmm?
I think he might have devalued himself a little bit with what happened in the playoffs, but I still
Sure.
think he makes no less than 13 to 14 million a year. Maybe 12 and a half, no doubt about it, because he's not a bad two-way forward. People say he's really not that bad. He's an elite playmaker, fantastic shot. Just his IQ offensively is through the roof. But again, people kind of look at, well, what about the playoffs? Like, I just think what went wrong in Toronto, I don't think it's any single individual player's fault. I just genuinely think they just kept throwing the same core at the wall over, and it just wasn't working. It's not the right mix of player. Just because this player didn't work in Toronto doesn't mean he's not going to go somewhere else and figure it out with a new mixed group of players. Like, you can look at Nazem Kadri, for instance, how all the criticism Kadri took in Toronto for so long goes on, wins a cup in Colorado. Look at Phil Kessel with winning in Pittsburgh. You just got to find the right mix of players. I'm not saying Sabres could be the right mix of players, but I just think in Toronto, they just weren't the right mix for that core. And I genuinely think Marner's gone. Like, I'm sure he's a Toronto kid. He wants to stay just like Tavares, but he is gone, man. Like, and that's got to burn for Toronto Maple Leafs fans, because you're going to lose that guy for nothing. He would have gotten you a haul in any trade, an absolute haul. But yeah, I would say between 12 and a half to 14 million, depending on the team. Now,
You
if we're
paying
talking,
that if you're Terry Bagula. If you're Terry Bagula, the makeup of this roster, what you perceive that you need, what you have, the future, the present, the cap space, the situation, all those factors combined, if you were in charge of the Sabres, if Duane was running the Sabres right now and making the final decisions, and Mitch Marner's representation was actually legitimately interested in coming to Buffalo, and you're right on the price, all those factors, you paying that?
Yes, 100%. Just got to get there, man. I know people disagree with me, but I don't care. I don't care. Get me there. I know. Here's the thing, people, like we're gonna break down each argument here, and I did this in a tweet earlier today. I don't know if you saw it or not, but for the people who hate the idea of Mitch Marner and they want to say their argument is, well, you need defense. No, I agree with you. You need better defensemen. You need a better one or two right-handed shot defensemen. Okay, find me somebody on the open trade market right now that's going to waive their no movement clause. That is a good right-handed defenseman that's going to come to Buffalo. Can you name anyone? No, exactly. So you're probably targeting RFAs. Okay. So if you're going to target RFAs, I'll give you a quick breakdown of what their RFA situation looks like. Just bring it up here. You see, just had it pulled up. I apologize.
Get the Mitch Marner fun in while we can. That's my
here we go.
Right now.
So now you're looking at so if you're looking at RFAs, right-handed shot defenseman. I mean, teams typically aren't going to part with a right-handed shot defenseman, especially a young one. Like you kind of look at like the Bowen Byram. He's left-handed, but you traded Casey Middlestat for Byram straight up. So you want to look at, realistically who out there as an RFA that, would be worth paying big money to go trade for, who have no choice to come here because they don't have a no movement clause because they haven't qualified for it yet. Top two names out there are probably Evan Bouchard and then Noah Dobson. I'd be willing, no doubt about my mind, giving them 10 sheets a year because they're just that good. They're just that good. Maybe not, I'm not sure about Noah Dobson, but definitely Bouchard. Now, would Edmonton part with Bouchard? No, absolutely not, because he's phenomenal. Noah Dobson, on the other hand, like the Islanders have the first overall pick. They might take that Schaefer kid, the left-handed defenseman. I could definitely see them taking him over Misa. So maybe that guy becomes expendable. Okay, sure, if that's an option. So the other RFAs you're looking at, are they going to cost you as much as Mitch Marner? No, it would be significantly less. Significantly less. No matter what you're trading for him. Maybe you are trading Bowen Byram in the 9th overall pick to get said guy. And maybe that guy is only costing you between $4 and $6 million. Are you telling me that you can't afford Mitch Marner because you have to pay $4 or $5 or $6 million for this right hand? No, you have the cap space. The cap is going up to 113 and a half, or no, sorry, maybe 118. No, forget it. Is it maybe 113 and a half million from 88 million over the next by 3 years from now?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. So if that is, it's either 118 and a half or 113 and a half. I can't remember exactly. Okay, so you don't go that route because you can't bring that guy in. You want to go the UFA route. Okay, best available UFA right-handed defensemen are Ekblad, Savard, Cody Ceci, Dante Fabro, Klingberg, Jan Ruta, and the list goes on as like worse a defenseman get, not worse, but Jan. And you look at these names, Aaron Ekblad, is he really going to leave Florida, not sign an extension, especially if Florida wins a second cup in a row? Is he going to bail out on a chance to be a part of a dynasty? Especially when he plays in a tax-free state, he might take less money to stay. If I'm Aaron Ekblad, I'm taking less money to stay. No doubt about it. He's their captain. So I think Aaron Ekblad probably honestly isn't going to be an option. I really genuinely think they're going to lock him up. Okay, you got Savard. Savard's never won a cup. He's 34 years old. Is he coming to Buffalo? No. Cody Ceci, 31 years old, never won a cup. Coming to Buffalo? Probably not. Klingberg, 32 years old, never won a cup. Coming to Buffalo? No. The only options in unrestricted free agency are honestly probably Dante Fabro, who was on waivers earlier this year, or Jan Ruta, who's 34 and has won a cup with Tampa. Those are maybe your only two options for a free agent right-handed defenseman. Are you paying Dante Fabro or Jan Ruta $6-7 million a year? No, you're not. So all this narrative that you can't afford him because you need a defenseman is bull. Yes, you can, because people get this mixed in their head that they're going to trade for this stud right-handed shot defenseman. Who is going to come here?
Yeah.
Who? Tell me who. Give me a list of names who's going to waive their no trade clause to come play for the Buffalo Sabres. So unless you're going to make a Bo Byram-like deal for a guy who's maybe on a bridge deal right now or still on their entry-level deal or whatever it might be, I'm sorry, you're not getting that guy. You're just not. But Mitch Marner is right there to be had. And then maybe you can make other moves to free up cap space, like buying out or trading Matthias Samuelsson, or trading Connor Clifton, who makes almost $3.5 million a year. Or, and I know we just got him in a trade. I'm not going to advocate trading for him, but some people have even suggested, why don't you trade Norris? You just got him, but maybe you can get other pieces that maybe you can package him for a true right-handed shot defenseman. And you just run with Tage Thompson, Yuri Kulik, and Ryan McCall as your top three centers. I'm not advocating for that, but I've seen it. So, there's just all this narrative that you can't go get Mitch Marner because of the cost. Now, I already went over why I think that it's stupid to really judge him on the playoff performances, because I really genuinely think that was more of that mix of a core rather than it was just Mitch Marner. If anything, I think Mitch Marner was getting criticized more than Austin Matthews, which to me is insane. Austin Matthews makes $13.5 million a year. There's no reason he should be getting criticized more than your captain. And then you brought up the Bills point. I know for a fact, and some people in my inner circle know who I'm talking about. I know for a fact that he has, I'm not going to call it like a friendship, like they're buddy pals, but he has relationships with Bills players. I know that for a fact. I've seen a personally signed autographed jersey in this Mitch Marner jersey in this player's closet. And it's not unfathomable to think that a guy who comes to Buffalo already in his free time to come to Bills games, to think that maybe if you do get back to the whole one Buffalo thing and bring in guys like, I'll throw a few names out there, Buffalo advocates like Josh Allen, I don't know, Keon Coleman, I don't know, Dion Dawkins. You bring those guys involved, get him in front of Mitch, bring him on a tour of the city, kind of like the way you did with Mario Williams. No one ever thought we could sign Mario Williams, what we did.
Yeah. No.
Just get those guys in front of him. You are not a serious hockey team, in my opinion, if you don't at least make the calls. Make the calls. Get in front of him. He'll listen to if he's interested in winning. Not saying you come to Buffalo to win. You probably more or less because you're going to get overpaid. But my realistic contract offer for Mitch Marner would probably be 3 years and $45 million. 3 years, $45 million. Don't give him an 8-year deal so you can get out of it. Maybe you end up eating some of the salary if it doesn't work out. But I would say $45 million, but between 3 years, between $40 to $45 million. That's what I would pay Mitch Marner if July 1st was tomorrow. Put the contract on the table in front of him. And then I don't know why I understand why players don't sign shorter term deals, because you sign a 3-year deal. Guess what? Now you sign your next contract. Maybe you're going from making 13.5 from 15 million. Maybe you're making 16, 17 million a year, because the cap's just going to keep going up over the course. I imagine it will, especially if the league continues to expand. They're probably going to get another team in Atlanta. I forget. They're talking about another team, I think, in Dallas, maybe Houston. I've heard rumors of that. Atlanta too. Yeah, man. Just for me, it just makes sense. A 3-year deal gives him the opportunity to make even more money on another contract. I have no doubt in my mind that he will live up to that contract because he'll play on a line with Tage Thompson. He will immediately turn Tage Thompson into a 50-plus goal scorer, 100-point player. If you look at the primary assists he's had with Austin Matthews since being in Toronto, he's almost I think it's 40% of Matthews' primary assists were from Marner. You don't think that guy's going to turn your already 40-plus goal scorer into a 50-plus goal scorer? Especially you're adding that dynamic to your power play, which has been abysmal for 3 years now.
Well,
to me, it shouldn't be that. Fans shouldn't be so against it. They shouldn't, because you can have both. You can have the defenseman and you can have Mitch Marner. And if you can't get Mitch Marner, then okay, you go chase guys like Sam Bennett or Brock Besser. Okay, but you are not a serious hockey team if you at least don't make the phone call and make him hear what you have to say.
Well, I for sure. I think a big Sabres move needs to be imminent.
Yes.
I kind of listed it as a question. I really don't even think it should be a question. First of all, let me address the playoff thing. if the Sabres got to the playoffs and Mitch Marner fell on his face and he sucked, all right, and they got swept out of the
Nobody's gonna
playoffs, and
care.
Tage Thompson, nobody's going to give a shit because they made the playoffs. The goal right now for the Buffalo Sabres, despite what Terry Pegula said 14 years ago about winning the Stanley Cup, bullshit. The goal is to make the playoffs. If this team makes the playoffs, just makes the playoffs, whoever it is, and this would be my biggest selling point, whether it's Mitch Marner or another really, really good player right now. And this is part of my problem with Kevin Adams. It's not even so much the draft picks he's made. It's not so much the trades he's made. It's not so much the free agent signings he's made, because he actually has a pretty decent record with a lot of those moves. Not all, but a lot of them. My issue with Kevin Adams, the biggest one is, well, besides being a yes guy for Terry, is he I don't think he's respected around the league. I don't think other
No.
agents like dealing with him. I don't think players respect him. I don't think other teams respect him. And I don't think he's a good salesperson. I think to be a good GM in any team sport, part of your job is to be a salesperson. You need to
Yep.
sell, especially when you're the Buffalo Sabres. You know, the palm trees, the taxes, the team sucks. All these factors against you. Find a way to sell yourself in the team. And he's not good at that. But let's play, just for the sake of discussion here, eternal optimist. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's impossible, Mitch Marner, okay? There's going to
Not.
be, if for him to sign with the Buffalo Sabres, they would have to, you brought up Mario Williams, and it's a great point because that's where the
It
Sabres
is.
are. They're not good. Mario Williams did not want to be a Buffalo Bill. Mario Williams could not resist what the Buffalo Bills were offering him. That's
Yep.
what it would take basically to get a Mitch Marner. If the playing field's level, the contracts are similar, why would he come to the Buffalo Sabres? I know you laid out some reasons, but that's not enough. That said, I want to play eternal ultimate optimist right now. If you come to Buffalo, okay, and you're Mitch Marner or another great player, but let's just stick with Mitch Marner here. If you come to Buffalo and you are a significant part of a team that breaks the drought, you're going to be treated like
It's
a
like God.
king. You're going to be
Yeah.
treated like royalty.
Yeah.
Guys like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde that came to the Bills, and the Bills broke a 17-year drought. Those guys were treated like kings. Guys who were here
Mhm.
through the drought but were good players but didn't get to play, really experience any of the success, like Kyle Williams and Eric Wood. They're regarded so highly right now amongst Buffalo Bills fans
Yep.
years later. Just get to play in one damn playoff game, whatever. If Mitch Marner came here, and I don't care if he played with Tage, with Norris, whoever he plays with, and he helps get the Sabres over the hump, and then they fall on their face at least the first year in the playoffs, who gives a shit? It would be
Yep.
party in the plaza, game one, first round of the playoffs. It would be a wild scene, and it would be worth it. But I think, if he could go get 12 to 13 on the open market and you think he's going to come to Buffalo, this is where I disagree. You're paying 14 to 15. It's the only way. Now, do you do that? I don't know. But if you don't overpay a man like that, even if he likes Josh, I don't care if it's his brother. All right.
Yeah.
If you got other opportunities around the league and knowing what the Sabres are, and they're not a very well thought of organization, let's just keep it real. You're going to have to overpay him drastically. It's the
Yeah.
only way.
You're looking at $15 million a year, I think,
Yeah.
to convince that guy to come to Buffalo, because he could go to a no tax state, and take less but still make the same. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's that party in the plaza, man. Like, they'll have to shut down half of downtown Buffalo. Like,
You
it'll
got
be 05, 06 all over again. Like,
yeah, man. It's
it's
got to be about
true.
more than just the money too. I mean, like Mitch Marner would want to have the mindset that I could be
You could
the
be the
missing piece.
solution.
14 years, got to have a little bit of ego. I'm the difference. I'm the guy who's going to come in here
Yep.
and make the difference. Kind of got to have that ego. So whether if it's not him, like we're talking about, something has to be imminent. A big
Yeah.
move has to be imminent. You got to do something. I kind of keep my eyes and ears on the voice of the fan, and it feels to me like this is probably a low point in terms of faith. Like the team's been worse than this. Team's been a lot worse
Yeah.
on the ice, but the faith that fans have in this organization is probably right now as low as I could ever
You're not
remember it.
you're
At
not
this point.
wrong, because like you could find at this point in the off season, like yeah, you're watching playoff hockey and you're wishing it was you, but you certain things are happening. Like you can try and find reasons to feel optimistic. And I said this on a podcast earlier today. Is like I feel like we're just in one giant like holding pattern right now. Like we don't know how to feel. It's sad, depressed, yeah, but we're waiting on this announcement of a senior advisor that we're not really sure what who he's going to answer to, or will he answer to Kevin? Will he be Kevin's boss? That's what kind of why I was on board a little bit with the Lou Lamoriello thing. People weren't, but like if there's any guy that could look at Terry Pegula and tell him what's up and how to run a franchise and have Terry Pegula listen and not bought in, it's Lou Lamoriello, because that guy has more hockey clout in his pinky finger than this entire organization combined. And it's a fact.
But do you think Terry wants that, though? It seems to me, and look, I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I'm all plugged into what's going on inside the four walls when it comes to the Sabres. But Terry Pegula seems to me like hockey's his toy. You know what I mean? It's like he wants to be involved in a lot of shit with this team.
Yep.
And you go get a guy like Lou, I'm not sure he could do exactly what he wants. That's why I think Kevin Adams is the perfect GM for him.
Yes man. He's the yes man.
Not for this organization, not for their success, but for him. It feels like he's their perfect GM. He ain't going against him. I said this on the show a couple of weeks ago. This is how I feel about Kevin Adams right now. He could come out. I'm repeating what I said. He could say his favorite color is blue. And then Terry's going to be like, no, it ain't. Your favorite color is red. And then Kevin's going to be like, oh, yeah, you know what? My favorite color is red.
Yeah.
You are 100% right. That's how I feel about Kevin Adams. All right, so Imminent move aside before we get out of here. Busy in a significant summer with the Sabres in terms of their own restricted free agents. McLeod, Quinn, Peterka, Byram, Docker, all restricted free agents right now. Plus Alex Tuch's eligible for an extension on July 1st. How do you see things playing out right now when it comes to the Sabres taking care of their own?
Priority has to be Alex Tuch. Has to be Alex Tuch. Yeah, I've said this so many times, and I'll keep saying it. Find me a guy who was just traded from the best team in the NHL to the worst team in the NHL who would have the smile on their face that Alex Tuch had in his introductory press conference. That guy was pumped. He was pumped. And he knew that he was going from the worst to the best of the worst. But he was pumped. Like, if your narrative that you're going to spin to fans is you want guys that want to be here, then you need to make sure Alex Tuch finishes his career as a Buffalo Sabre. You no doubt about it. I mean, whether it's $8 or $9 million, make it happen. You just got to. In terms of the RFAs, I think McLeod should. I could probably see that being like a 3-year bridge deal. I think Kevin Adams may have learned a little bit from giving out long-term extensions to guys right away. I mean, obviously, it's worked out with Tage Thompson. That's possibly the best contract in all of hockey. Just a little over $7 million a year for a 40-goal scorer, a 2-time 40-goal scorer. That's the best deal. That's the best contract in the league. I could see that being a 3-year bridge deal. Bernard Docker. I mean, we didn't really see enough of him to really. What we saw wasn't bad, but I don't see that guy probably getting more than anywhere between maybe a 1 to a 3 year, maybe like a 3-year extension on a very low cap hit. I mean, I'm not even sure how often he was playing with Ottawa when that deal was made. Jack Quinn can kick rocks for all I care. Like that guy, he's
frustrating.
He's frustrating, and he's too injury prone. Like the skill is there. He's not a dumb hockey player. It's just when you get hurt as often as he has, it just takes too long for him to really get back into a groove and find that confidence again. And we don't have time to keep waiting for Jack Quinn. We just don't. So I think he's traded. I don't know what for, but I think he's probably traded. What were the other names? I'm sorry again. It was Devin Levi is going to his RFA. He'll probably be like a 2 to 3 year deal. I could see that being in between 1 to 2 million per. If it's a 3-year deal, I'm willing to bet the first year is probably like a 2-way deal, so we can go back and forth between Rochester and Buffalo without any issues, and then maybe the second, and if there's a third year, being a 1-way deal, because he's been honestly their next to Kulik, their best prospect. He's been phenomenal. I was in Rochester for game 2 against Laval, and that team is probably as good as the lockout team was when they had Vanek, Roy, and company, and even before then, like probably better than the last team that won the Calder Cup in '96, which was Steve Shields. That team is a wagon, and the numbers Devin Levi put up this season were incredible, and he's having a great playoff. So I could probably see that being a 2 to 3 year deal for him. So, but you're not paying these guys incredible high amounts of money. You're just not. Bowen Byram, I think he's traded. I think Buffalo doesn't want 3 puck moving defensemen. I like Bowen Byram a lot. I know people call him a Darlene Merchant, but in terms of a guy who plays physical, plays well in front of his own net, I mean, after Darlene, there aren't really any other defensemen that do what Bowen Byram does defensively. But they're not gonna choose they're not gonna choose to have 3 of the same defensemen, left-handed defensemen at least. Right. So I think they'll probably end up trading him. We'll see what that return is. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the RFA situation should be very difficult. The big name is JJ Peterka. If he's smart, he does a 3-year bridge deal. Bets on himself, the way Darlene did, and cashes out big heading into his 3rd season. Probably, I've seen anywhere for him. I've seen projections for like 4 years for $6.5 million for him. I think he could even make more than that. But priority has to be, no doubt, Alex Tuch, and then JJ, and then I think the rest, even for Kevin Adams, should be hard to figure out.
All right, last thing here, we're going to get out. Plug your podcast. Let people know who are listening to this who may not have heard your show before, where they can find it. You're part of Built in Buffalo, of course, and when? Like, when do you do your podcast, and where can people go check it out?
So during the season, we go live after, I'd say, 85% of the Sabres games, barring West Coast games that start at like 10 o'clock at night. But our normal weekly show as of right now is Tuesdays at 8:30. Sometimes we might start a little bit earlier than that, but normally 8:30. With a second show varying sometimes on Thursdays. That again, it's all dependent sometimes on games. If there's a game that night or not. But yeah, we can find us on the Built in Buffalo Network. We're at 2 Goalies, 1 Mic. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course we're on YouTube too. And we broadcast live on Facebook and Twitter whenever we record a show. So, man, I really appreciate. We're not the most analytic. To your point, we're a fan driven podcast from 2 guys who've played the game or coached their entire life. So we're not big. I'm gonna say we're not big into the number side, the analytics and the graphs and all that. I respect it, but that's just not our shtick. I guess I'm not going to call it a shtick, but I respect it, but it's just not us. If you want a good fan perspective, give us a listen. Hopefully we don't disappoint you.
Yeah, for sure, man. And make sure you follow Duane on Twitter X at Duane S39. Appreciate you having on, buddy. Thanks for carving out some time for me.
No, and thanks for having me on. Again, this is long overdue. Had a great time.
Yeah, for sure, guys. Thank you, Duane. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for watching. I'll be back. Matt Warren from SB Nation, Buffalo Bills NFL Talk coming on the show tomorrow.